Please hit like, share, and subscribe. Now enjoy the Practical Guitarist podcast. Okay.
Good evening, Jim.
Well, good evening, David.
Is it really?
I don't know. It's 9 o'clock my time. I don't know, 9 something my
I
time.
just was insinuating that it might not be good.
Well, I just got done cutting my grass, and it was in one of those rushed get the grass cut before it gets wet again
Yeah.
scenarios. So
It's like, shit, it's showing up. The rain's coming tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, it might come tonight.
Yeah.
So I let it dry all day as much as I could. But it's like, you've got a dinner party and you got to take that shirt out of the dryer now.
Right.
Or, those pants and they're not quite dry, but I'm going to put them on anyway.
Uh-huh.
That's the kind of thing I've got going on right now. So that's my what's new. And I bought tickets to a movie. You got to hear this story. So I bought tickets to a movie. There's supposedly, my son says, there's only one IMAX in the area. So I picked the IMAX. I do the thing, a wrong IMAX. I picked a IMAX in Norfolk and I was in Virginia Beach. 40 minutes apart, and I got there at the time the movie would have started. So let's just say I was mad. And if I got there early, like I should have, like I always like to, I could have got my tickets refunded, then bought tickets there and saw the movie. But instead, now we got to fight the credit card company and say, hey, we can go to the movie. I'm not paying for tickets for a movie I didn't go to, number one. And number two, I got to go see that movie still, that Avengers movie, which I have zero interest in seeing. None.
The
I'm just letting you all know.
Doctor Strange one.
Yeah. The multiverse.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll be entertained. I love superhero movies and I love sci-fi. I'm sure I'll be entertained in the moment, but outside of it, I could think of better things to do with 2 hours of my day.
This has definitely so far been a scuffed episode because we started off and the bubble was lit for the LED was lit for the last topic, so I just had to flip it over. It's so funny. So anyway, this happens. If you've ever watched the show on YouTube before, sometimes there's titles that don't make sense, and it's just shit happens. Today we don't have a clever title for this episode, mostly because we're just going to be discussing stuff that has gone on in May, really.
Because we haven't recorded in 2 weeks, folks, and so
we're playing catch up.
We're playing catch up. We'll play Mustard next week.
All right. So what's new, Jim? What do you got going on?
Okay, I got a couple of news things. So, being a local musician, there's a lot of local artists, and this was not something I asked someone to do, but they presented it to me, and then they said if I'd like to buy it, I could. No pressure, no. So somebody drew me.
Oh yeah.
There I am.
They got your tattoo and everything.
Yeah. They even got the headstock right. It's hard to see, but there is Gibson in there, and there's
you got
Paul in there.
Yeah. So now you can have your Gibson crap. You bought a great Gibson branded drawing.
Gibson branded drawing. And the local musician is named David. He does.
It's really cool, actually.
Yeah, it's actually very good. And I wasn't sure what it would look like in person. It looks better. Mm-hmm. And he put it in this thing because it's pencil.
Right.
And he sprayed it with a thing. So that's very nice. And it was very sweet. I wanted to give a shout out to David Zojavier. He's a local artist and does these things. I won't give you a price because it just depends on what you and he agree on. But I will tell you that it's reasonable, especially for the number of hours he puts into these drawings and the precision that the drawings give you. We're thinking about getting the band done that way for a thing we can use. So I have another what's new. It's not as big as the drawing.
Well, you got a couple of what's news actually.
I actually do. All right, so I have this.
Yeah, he's got another one.
This is a gold top Les Paul
that he said he wouldn't buy.
Yeah, I let one go to bring one in.
He got rid of the double cut.
Yeah, got rid of the double cut. This is much heavier than the other. I did something to this that I also did to my Amber one, but I did it to all my Les Pauls. Does anybody notice what it is?
You remove the pick guard?
I removed all the pick guards. I went pick guardless at least
any
for a
particular reason to do that?
I don't really need a pick guard. If you saw the way I play, I do more of my scratches are right here along the pick guard. Or
yeah, you play tight into the bridge. I've watched you.
I bought a strap that goes with it, and I'm going to use the strap for all of them.
It's cool. So refresh my memory. What's different about the gold top? Is it's a different shaped neck, isn't it?
So yeah, this guy. So it's supposed to be the same exact thing as my 50 standard that's hanging behind me.
I thought the neck shapes were slightly different.
No, it's supposed to be the same, but it doesn't feel the same, and it definitely doesn't sound exactly like. Although, like you said, when we talked earlier this week,
I suspect those guitars are way closer than most people would think.
Yeah, the pickups sound a little gnarlier, but
it could be a height adjustment, new strings,
simple height adjustment, will probably, and strings. And there's both on both of them right now. There's 1046s tuned to standard, so they sound all right. But I decided to go pick guardless because I was like, geez, I don't really need to put them on there. I mean, I just don't scratch the guitar. And the only guitars I have scratches on the pick guard is the 335, and it's because the pick guard on the 335
it's different
upward,
right?
Instead of, and so when you're playing it, you do tend to hit it.
If you strum.
And somebody asked me, and somebody asked me, and they said, "Well, why don't you pick the pick guard off that?" I go, "I don't know. A 335 doesn't look right without a pick guard, or with a pick, without a pick guard." So I said, "Yeah, I'll just keep it on there." So I did that, and other than that, it felt good.
I generally don't like them on the Les Pauls because they rattle.
Yeah.
It's a subtle thing. But I've had like new off the shelf ones where the screws aren't like super tight, rattling, and it's like it's almost like trem springs in a Strat when they're at the right tension that you can hear them like a reverb tank. So I rip them off. I'm just like, I don't want one. I don't want that on there. I know it's a looks thing. A lot of people really like the way it looks, but I always thought it was just kind of a silly.
Yeah, in case anybody wonders, what I do is I just take the screw was in there, and I just put it back in the hole. See it there?
Yeah, you can leave it open too. I know a lot of people do. That's why I do.
You can leave them open. The only reason I put the screws back in the hole,
so you don't lose them.
So I don't lose them. Yeah, exactly. And to be honest with you, they're 20-cent screws? I mean, it's like,
well, they're 20-cent screws now, but if you keep that guitar 60 years, no, I'm kidding.
I won't be alive then. I won't really.
Well, and they won't be rare either because there's a million of them.
And that's the thing, that's the thing about all this stuff. You've got all these people like, I don't want to put a scratch on my guitar. I don't want to put it in. And I'm like, if you're buying a brand new guitar for
if it says collector's item, don't collect it.
Right. Which is something we'll talk about later, because the collection item thing is something we definitely have to discuss today.
Yeah. So
you've got some what's new.
I got some what's new. So like this is a project I'm working on. It's almost done actually. This is the King of Tone clone from On Effects. It's the analog King of Tone. They call it the Theseus. And it's got, mine is not exactly like the King of Tone. I've got some changes I had to make because I can't get all the components for it right now. Some of the components are unobtainium. And then of course this is the true bypass foot switch assembly, and then this all gets wired together, and then that goes in the housing. I got a blue housing over here sitting next to me. I need to drill it so I can install everything. And once that's done, it'll probably be done in a couple hours. I think I've only got another 12 solder joints or something to do, so should be pretty straightforward. And then RC600 I ordered is showing up tomorrow, and my guitar's still not done, which I'll take a little bit to talk about that. So if I can remember to, I will flash this up on the yeah, we definitely need to talk about that. I will flash this up if I can remember. But so I built that parts caster, the white guitar with the now it's got a torque guard and Fishman HSS set and Wenge neck from Warmoth. This guitar like is being built by Good Time Music, and they do great work, and like I'm totally comfortable having them build it. But man, if building a guitar right now and getting parts and shit is just not a total clusterfuck. I cannot explain the pins and needles I've been on waiting for things like super switches and the back panel from Fishman, or even ordering a neck from Warmoth was like a goddamn nightmare because they don't, our lead time is as published plus 6 weeks. Why can't you just say what it is then? Like, right. What the fuck? Like, who does that? Our lead time is six weeks plus 6 weeks. You're going to make me do math? You can't just tell me what your lead time is? Like, you can't say 12 weeks? Like, are you that lazy you're not going to go update it?
That's what I was going to say. Well, we have to add 6 plus 6, carry the 4, plus 2, alg 5, times I to the negative 3.
Whoever made that decision over at Warmoth, you're drunk. You need to sober up, okay? Before you start making business decisions. Get some coffee.
I'm such a smart ass when it comes to shit like that. I just think that when it comes to the most basic shit, that it should be easy for people to figure out. That people don't. I understand you don't want to give unreasonable expectations, right? Because remember the vaporware era of software in the 90s.
Yeah, I remember when the Quad Cortex came out.
Yeah, that. And
I went there,
and that's what I mean. I mean, you look at this stuff, and it's like, okay, we're gonna make a delivery date, and we're gonna make it like May 20th. May 20th rolls around, it doesn't show up. People are in a fury. Here's the terrible thing we live in. The world we live in right now, there's death threats because something didn't arrive on time, or a movie didn't go the way people wanted, or something else. We have the most ridiculous era.
It's the I need it now culture, but like on the same side of that, there's people that depend on this stuff to actually pay their bills. Like there are professionals that are buying gear that like need to know when not necessarily their guitar is going to be done, but like when they're going to get their new console that's going to allow their studio to operate because the other one took a shit. That's the kind of stuff that it's like you gotta be able to give an estimate, like at least an estimate. And I won't.
But you gotta be like Scotty.
I'm not gonna
have it ready for another 24 hours, Captain.
I'm not gonna point the finger at specific retailers, but I've been given some like lines of bullshit lately that are they're on another level. I spoke to a retailer about a product that I needed to order a couple months back, and they told me it wouldn't be in until the end of the year. They would not be receiving any shipments until I think they said November or something like that. And I was like, well, wait a minute. I was like, it's not coming until November. How do you know it's coming in? Well, that's when our PO comes due. So I'm like, you don't have a purchase order for additional. Like you don't have any on back order for no. And I'm sitting there kind of thinking to myself, like, well, wait a minute. It's one thing if it's not going to show up because they couldn't get it to you, but it's another if you didn't fucking order any. Do you know what I mean? Exactly. Like that's not, we're not waiting until November. We're waiting for your ass to put in the order. Like that's no. And I've been told by another retailer who will remain nameless, different retailer. I was told, I'm trying to think of a diplomatic way to put this, but I was basically told like, we should just get used to this. And I'm going, I mean, I get used to it if it was 1 year and then it was supposed to subside, but these companies aren't changing their business model. They're like, fuck it. We're just going to operate like this now. It's crazy. No industry does this. No industry. The auto industry right now is taking extreme measures to try and get vehicles in people's hands because they got nothing. They can't even sell cars. It's an apocalypse out there right now because we went to take my wife's car to get the oil change. We went to the dealer because we had to get a recall done. So we pulled in and we drove the lot, and there was like 8 used cars in a lot that probably holds 200. Okay. And we're going, something's wrong, but it's like Ford, announced they're going to start shipping cars with no computers in them because they're waiting on computers to show up. So car will be sitting in the lot, and then when you buy it, the service guy will install your system. Like, what in God's name kind of nonsense is this shit?
That's so that they don't put a computer in a car that's just going to sit on a lot and wait.
But the parallel I was making, the difference between the auto industry and our industry is like, well, we don't even want to airship anything. We don't even want to air freight a couple ahead of time so people can actually get the stuff they need. And I know air freight's expensive. Like, I was told this by a retailer. Air freight is expensive. No shit. But you know what's more expensive? Not having any fucking product on the shelf to sell. Which is why it's like, you guys are going to have to eat some shit in order to sell some shit. Okay? Which is why I was like, I'm a consumer. I mean, and put yourself in the consumer's shoes. I don't care how you got it here. I don't care if it came over on an airplane or if it came over on a boat or somebody drilled a hole and shot it down, out of a cannon down the hole across the ocean. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter to most consumers. That's my point, is like, okay, so there was and this is a bad parallel because I know that this is sort of a political conversation. When Barack Obama was in office, there was a shortage on ammunition in the country, right? And it lasted 8 years. It lasted the entire time he was in office because people were freaking out that he was in office and there was a run on ammunition. And so you couldn't go to the range without dropping an extra $50 on range bullets. They wouldn't let you bring your own in it because they were making a killing off of it, right? And it got to the point where people were like starting to ask questions about why companies like Remington weren't hiring extra staff members or building extra facilities to put out, basically like plinking ammo, 22 long rifle, the kind of stuff they shoot in, the Olympics. And it was like, well, we don't know if the industry is actually changing. It's like, well, it's been fucking 8 years, like at some point you have to draw a line in the sand and say, things have changed. Most people's jobs don't last 8 years. They last 4 or 5. So hire some people on. And when the crisis ends, you let those people go and you move on. Like we're what now? This is 2022, correct? Which means that 2020, we started to see shortages at the end of 2019, 2020, 2021, we're now in 2022. And I'm going, there's been literally no change by the industry at large. In fact, some companies are still playing the card that, well, COVID's still happening. Fishman is one of those companies. I will out them because they were pains in the ass about getting me my pickups. And it was like the dealer I got them through was having conversations about them when they're going to ship. And they were going, we don't work. We only work like 2 days a week right now. It's like, well, why? Because COVID. And it's like, well, okay, but it's been 2 years. You haven't figured out a better way for you to do business in 2 years? Come on, people. I work for a company that's very, very progressive, and we've been functioning as normal the entire time, which is why I have a really hard time accepting as a consumer that a business is like, well, we only work 2 days a week right now. What? In the middle of, the single greatest consumer crisis of my life, which is that like the stimulus payments and everybody was ordering everything, under the sun all at once. So then, to parlay that in, because I'm kind of done with this angle, but to talk about the guitar a little bit more. So we order all the parts, right? We've been fighting manufacturers to get stuff, and it's been like this whole debacle. You remember this project started on the show back in March, And I expected the neck was going to take a little bit longer, and it wound up being right on estimate, right? The day I finally caved and I said, no, I got to ask because I haven't heard anything from them. I reached out to them. They said it'll be shipping on like Monday. I was like, okay. So Warmoth had their shit together, except for the fact that they were asking us to add 2 dates together because for some reason they can't update their website with the correct information. They have to make you do math, which seems asinine to me. And then the Fishman Pickups, they were supposed to be in 6 weeks, and they took 8. When they showed up, they did not ship complete, so they didn't have the battery. I had to wait an additional week for the battery, which was like, what? Now they're HSS, so that's humbucker and 2 singles, and they had to be ordered that way. So it was like 4 different items on the order. So to their credit, like they're going to ship what they have, right? And I know they're waiting on parts from China. So all the Fishman stuff, no matter how expensive it is, none of it's made in the States. It comes out of China. So you're just going to be waiting until the boat shows up, basically. And then that wasn't the real bitch of it, right? So like we get the pickups in, and they started to work on the guitar, and then they realized that the battery plate wasn't there, so they didn't do anything. And then they went to start wiring it up. I think it was 2 weeks ago, and then like they realized they needed a super switch because the diagrams they provided them were not clear. And then when they got the super switch in, I believe it was Thursday this week, they started working on it, and they worked Friday afternoon pretty much all day. It's like, I think it was like, I don't know the exact times, but it was probably, they spent 10 hours on it this weekend. And they finally got it wired up because the diagrams are so bad. And they're not really clear about how certain functions can be combined with other functions, etc. And what I was asking for, I'll go into in a minute. It's not a tall order. Like, this was not crazy stuff. This should be something that Fishman should be capable of diagramming. But it just goes to show you, this company knows nothing about electric guitars. They have no idea what they're doing with electric pickups at all. This is a bought design, and they're merely selling it. That's what my thought process is. Which is supported in interviews and stuff. So you can go and actually there was an interview with the guy that designed the Fluence line of pickups on Amps and Axis. I would suggest you check it out. Anyway, so the whole thing is basically as follows. My guitar should be ready next week. They just got to put knobs on it and do final setup. It is functional. What I wanted on the wiring is 3 knobs, push pulls on each, voicing for the back tone, voicing for the middle tone. So voicing the one that's farthest from the neck would be the bridge pickup voicing. The one that is closest to the neck would be the single coil pickup voicing for both coils. That's the way it works on those guitars because it has one preamp on one pickup. And then the other pickup is just simply passive and connects to that. Which they have different power rails, which is why you need a super switch. And they don't tell you that very clearly. They include everything else in the box, but not that. And then they have, so I wanted that, and I wanted the coil split for the volume knob for the bridge humbucker. And apparently that was like a fucking nightmare. And it has to do with the fact that there's push pulls on the guitar. There's 3 of them in a Strat cavity. Now, I mean, they're that tall. I mean, they're pretty ridiculous. If you've ever seen a push pull knob, I can understand why they were having issues with that. But it's the fact that the wiring diagrams weren't clear, and they were like basically throwing shit against the wall to see what stuck, which is what took so long. And it really seems like Fishman didn't provide adequate information for installation. Now, to put it in perspective, Good Time has installed a hell of a lot of EMGs over the years. And they've done other Fishman sets. They've done, the Strat and the Telecaster set, and they've done dual humbucker sets and stuff like that over the years. But an HSS set is not something that Fishman sells stock. In fact, for a while, you couldn't even get singles by themselves. You had to buy the Strat set and then part them out. And I think that's part of the reason why this is such a debacle. But it's like, if you're going to sell them as singles, at least provide proper documentation. This is pretty wild. And I actually have a copy of the wiring diagrams, and to Good Times credit, like I did ask about the Super Switch when early on, but I was like, I had not realized that every single diagram in the book is a Super Switch, and nowhere did they say you have to have this. So I just assumed, that's the way it works. And apparently I was wrong. Like you can't do it without anything else. I just assumed that you could slave even the passive single to the bridge pickup, which is probably part of the issue. But I know what they ended up doing was putting the active neck, or the active single coil, I believe, is in the neck position because of the way that the switch would work out. You'd have to have that powering in the middle position, powering the middle pickup. And I have no idea how they got the bridge middle position to work. So that's a whole other, like, I'm going to have a conversation with Eric, the guy who's building this thing, to find out exactly how they made that magic work. Cause I was just thinking about it in my head when I was looking at the diagrams, like, this doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, that's going to be next week's What's New. And then I've also got the RC600 showing up tomorrow. So, and I'm streaming more. I've been, I did a music stream a week ago, I think. And then I played a video game the other night. So I've been doing that more because I'm, where I'm at right now, cases are elevated. So I'm considering kind of backing out of some of the, small opportunities until the cases level off again, which they will. Just because the FDA hasn't approved another booster yet, pretty much. And given some of my personal medical issues, I think it's probably not the stupidest thing in the world for me to do.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, so yeah, you know what you should do? You should get Rocksmith and stream that. I mean, people,
everybody does Rocksmith. You know what I hate? You know what I hate about watching people do Rocksmith?
That they suck at it,
and
they have to. No,
there's a lot of people out there that are really, really good playing Rocksmith.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, you know what I hate about playing Rocksmith? Why I don't want to play it on Twitch? Because that's what everybody with a guitar does. So I do the one-man band thing, and it works out pretty well. I've had some success with it. So
no, I was just talking about the gaming side. I'm not talking about
yeah. No, I play games that are stupid hard that, like, people are like, you're a glutton for punishment. Like, what's wrong with you? Play the hardest version of Dark Souls you can. Like, yeah, that's way too easy for me. That's Lego.
I love this stuff. I'm such a silly son of a bitch.
I like games where you play for 22 hours and if you die, you lose all your progress.
This is for the fun of it. This is one of those things I do because at heart, I love this crap.
You're still a kid,
Yeah, I'm a little boy. I mean, let's face it, I'm a little kid.
Yeah,
so
I play stuff that makes you feel like you have to reevaluate your life if you fail at it. You're like, man, I just burned like 40 hours in this game and I died and I have to start from the beginning. Like, that's the kind of stuff I play.
This is my mindless fun because this is the stuff I've been working.
Right.
So you go back and forth.
Right.
The G major scale or the...
I should share that. So another What's New, I finally committed to memory the cycle of fifths. Yeah. I can decide him. I'm not going to go through that right now.
I was forced. I can do it probably not as fast as you probably could, but I was forced. Like when you're a kid, you have to learn the. I don't know if you guys had to do that. I'm a little older, but where we had to memorize the numeric tables, whether it was addition, subtraction, multiplication.
Right.
In the tens, so 10 by 10 square. So from 1 to 100.
They made us go to 12.
Okay. And so you were up to 144.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I had to sit there and I memorized those things. That's kind of what the circle of fifths for me was.
Yeah.
Was that. And then in my own mind, I said circle of fifths. And I saw a clock and I went, wait a minute. And I literally built a circle of fifths only to find out that had already been done like 1,000 times before me.
Yeah, you're like C, F sharp. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I was like,
your
oh, look at
noon and
this.
your
It works this way.
yeah.
And yeah.
Uh,
Which I still think is a good idea. And I think it's a good idea to memorize how many flats and sharps there are in each key. It
that's
helps you.
actually that's actually the reason why I wanted it.
Right.
Because I'm like, if I know that, that will allow me to use a C major scale and alter it
That's right.
pretty quickly to understand like the relationships between different scales in a particular key. Because now I can apply that as like a numeral type thing and think
Right.
about it in that perspective too.
And it helped me when it came to like somebody recommending changing keys. I'd say, hey, take this from this key to this key.
It's a
I can do it
transposition
like that.
tool.
And I still can.
And it's I've been told that is like it's a fundamental of music for a reason. Like a lot of people don't use it. They don't think about the fact that they know it and what it does, but it's so foundational. There are other things you
Right.
can't grasp unless you've done that.
Right.
So I can jive with that because it definitely opened a few doors where I was like, wait a minute, like now I get it. Like I get why why people say there are keys that don't really exist, because there's really it ends at F sharp and then it starts over at flats, like
Right.
and there's an obvious reason for that.
Yep.
So anyway, let's go on. We talked about shipping woes. Let's go ahead and skip that topic because we actually, even though we never hit the LED for it, I talked enough about it, and quite frankly, I don't think there's a whole lot more to talk about that. We want to talk about the bots on Reverb though. So this has been going around. You've probably seen this in other places, and I kind of want to. I have my spin on it, but basically, I came across it from watching Phil McKnight do his live stream the other day, where he's like, "Yo, something's either up on Reverb or prices are going through the floor." Well, prices are clearly not going through the floor. That was kind of a clickbait thing, but the reality is that there's some sort of European, I don't know if this is like bots, but like there's a loophole that's allowing people to make claims against Reverb. It may even be a situation where they're shipping empty boxes or something, or weighted boxes or pins of guitars like they do on eBay. When you buy a really expensive guitar from a country that's not the US and it shows up at your house and you're like out of $3,000 for a fucking pin, an enamel pin that costs $5. Yeah, I understand that this is an issue and people need to be paying attention to this, but he blew it out of proportion. And then everybody ran and did that story. That's my gut take on it, because I think that's where 60 Cycle Hum got it from, was they saw him reporting it and maybe saw it in a forum group where some people were talking about it. And Phil sounded the alarm. And he only had like 6 or 7 instances, which you don't think this shit's going on regularly? I mean, I've seen fake shit on Reverb a lot.
Reverb, Craigslist, eBay. Come on. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And Facebook. I mean, I'm that person that copies and pastes copies and pastes the ads into his timeline going, right. Like the $100, we're blowing out these $100 Gibsons. And it's a picture, a stock picture from when Pete Townsend or Joe Walsh got a signature guitar.
At the Gibson garage.
Right, and they posed with all their signature guitars.
Wasn't there a thing where they said the Gibson garage was closing recently? Somebody was posting it and saying like $100 per Gibson. And it's like, first off, all right.
Even if it was, that wouldn't be the price.
Real talk for our audience. If you think you see somebody buying a Klon, and Klons are $3,000 now, okay, and the price is $3,000, you see somebody buying one for $2,000, ask yourself a question: is that too good to be true? Because if you ask yourself that question, and I say this because people don't ask that question enough, chances are it's bullshit. It's like the buddy that tells you, well, I bought a new boat, and you're like, how much you pay for that? And he says, oh, it was $900. Bullshit. Yeah. You bought a boat for $900.
Wait till you see it. You got.
I want to see the bill of sale. I have people in my life who have historically completely flat out lied to me about the purchase price of things. And it's like, come on, for real. Like, I know what that cost you. Like, you don't have to lie to me, and it's okay. If you pay list price, I don't give a shit. I just curious what you paid, because normally I'm like, ooh, I might want to get one.
Right.
So
I think
there's two types of people, right, Jim? There's the people that lie about something and say they paid a hell of a lot less, and there's the people that lie and say they paid a hell of a lot more.
That's right. I would be in the Gibson Facebook pages, and there would be almost daily somebody going, I got this beautiful gift. And then, of course, somebody goes, fake. And then the next person jumps in, fake. The next person jumps in, fake. Because it is a fake. And they point it out. Because these guys, they look at these things all day long. And they're fanboys like myself. And so here they are. They're and then the person goes, I paid $3,000 for this. No, you didn't. You bought it on eBay for $250 from AliExpress or Alibaba.
Yeah,
or whatever
and you don't want to admit
are.
that you made a mistake.
Right, and you don't want to admit it.
Or maybe they knew and they hoped they could pass it off. And that's another weird thing, is like, why would you care what strangers on the internet think of your guitar? Like,
that's the other
you know
side.
What I mean? Like, what the hell?
Why do you care what I think of your guitar? I don't care what you think of mine. I mean, the truth of the matter is, I didn't put up a poll and go, buying a Les Paul, what do you guys think? Should I get the 50s or 60s? Should I get the gold top or who gives a shit? You're not the one playing it. You're not the one who has to have it strapped around your neck. And you're not the one that's going to have to listen to it or deal with it if something's wrong with it or right with it. Yeah. And that's the thing that really ticks me off, is just like you were talking about earlier, there's this whole, I got to have it now thing, which is what pushes prices up. I mean, we talked about, did we talk about, oh, come on, JHS and the pedals and the pricing? We did, right?
I don't know if we actually talked about it on an episode, but yeah. JHS, it doesn't matter. We can set the scene for you. Josh says X pedal that nobody wants is good. And then all of a sudden, X pedal that nobody wants is sold out on Reverb, and the ones that are up there are $1,000 a piece.
That's right. Everybody wants one. All of a sudden, everybody wants one. All of a sudden, a pedal last week you couldn't give away for $60 is going for $400, and that's because somebody saw Josh Scott play it and went, "Wow, it really is as good as Y pedal. I gotta go get one."
Can I show people what that curve looks like though over time? This is time, right? This is the time axis. And the curve goes like this. Josh Scott talks about it. And then slowly they go right back down to where they were.
That's right. And if you didn't have that I gotta have it now symptom or syndrome and that attitude, it'd go away in a few days. If people weren't willing to pay tons and tons of money for used ones of these on the market, they wouldn't sell for any more than maybe $600 used, $650 used. But because people are still willing to pay more than new for a used PRS,
but you can get them. You can find them. Why are people paying more than new?
I don't know. That's what I get to. Oh, I gotta have it. I gotta get it.
But they didn't even call enough dealers to know that they're around.
Yeah, there's still some around.
I know,
and they're coming in stock again.
Yeah,
and that's my point. What was the
I've had the opportunity to buy one a couple of times.
Yeah. I mean, and it really goes, it speaks even outside of this. You can talk about the PlayStation 5, and every time one goes up for sale, I mean, all of a sudden everybody's got to have one. And it's like, here's an idea. Don't buy it till it comes down. How is a PlayStation 5, unless you are you, and don't tell me there's that many of these people that are you, absolutely need one for your Twitch streams, because you're Twitch streaming PS5s games. Do you really need a PS5? No,
yeah, well,
do not.
Listen, if you want to talk about crazy shit, okay. So similar thing, right? we all bitch and complain about the price of vintage guitar stuff and how like Josh will talk about a pedal and all of a sudden it'll be worth a lot of money. But y'all don't have anything on what's gone with used video games in the last 2 years. 2 years since 2020. And I've had people say, oh, this has been happening since 2017. Bullshit. Okay? Because I was buying old games in 2017 and 2018, and I can tell you what they cost. And like a PlayStation 1 game, any of them pretty much used to be, you could find them for anywhere between $5 and $35, depending on what game it was and how rare it was. Now you can't find them for less than $50 to $200 and $300. The vast majority of the catalog for the PlayStation 1 is now above $100. The vast majority. And that's for games that no one wants to play.
Right.
It's just, it's a wild collector's market. And the thing is, if you're playing vintage games, yeah, you can emulate, but a lot of that stuff, you need the actual, I mean, for one thing, if you're going to do it legally, you're supposed to have a legal copy of the game. But the other stupid part about it is, if you emulate some games, they don't work right in emulation. And there's quite a few of them actually on the PS1. So that's what's partially driven the prices up. And
you know what?
It's unfathomable, because it wasn't that they were just old a few years ago. It was that nobody wanted them because they were bad. So Pepsi Man is a classic example. That was a game that came out. It was a promotional game, and it's a terrible idea. It's an infinite runner, and Pepsi Man, a promotional game, let me remind you, now goes for like $200. Like, who the hell's buying this crap?
This is something that makes me laugh. Is whether it's guitars or Pepsi Man or those pedals. I think it was a Digitech pedal that Josh got it recently looked at.
Yeah, Pepsi Man is not a reproduction, because there are reproductions of it available. Is like $110 right now.
That's ridiculous. That was a terrible game. I wouldn't give it 25 cents for it. That's me. But anyway, and so
brand new sealed $802.
Which one?
Pepsi Man.
Oh my God. So here's what makes me laugh hard. So you take a game like Pepsi Man, whatever, and those things were a digital thing on a disc.
You can copy it.
How hard would it be? You can copy PS1 discs.
Yeah, there's repro CDs.
Right. Yeah. And it would be one thing to say, yeah, I got a legal copy, but you can't get a legal copy because it's under, it's not in production anymore.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with making it? Now, that doesn't speak to the new, somebody's going to talk about that new SpongeBob movie that somebody remade, the SpongeBob movie.
Yeah, but you can't, even if it's out of production, you can't make a copy for your own purposes.
And use it. You can use it for yourself.
That's technically yes and no. You shouldn't. But you can buy, so a lot of times what people do is they buy scratch copies, or they buy ones that are like cracked, and then they just go and emulate it. Because you have a physical copy, it just doesn't work anymore.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And so, again, the thing that I'm getting at is this. So PS, PlayStation, Microsoft, everybody, they moved. We may as well get to this thing because we've danced around this digital thing we're about to talk about a couple of times already. So the games now you could buy. I just bought for the Switch.
I bought the new
sports game because I enjoy the sports on Nintendo. I think it's fun. It's silly, but it's fun. Again, it's like that Star Wars thing. I love playing Nintendo. I think the little animated characters are the funniest little things to look at, and silly and dumb. And I know that, and I still would rather play them than some of the more realistic looking things that are out there. But here's my point that I'm getting to. So now we're talking about NFTs. We got to get to the NFT thing.
Yeah, I've already moved this ahead, by the way.
Fender. Go ahead.
So last time we covered NFTs, it was because Joe Bonamassa had sold an NFT, and since then, of course, that's like open season. Everybody's selling NFTs of their music right now. But hearing Fender is going to be selling NFTs of their designs. Like, what the I mean, I'm trying not to swear this episode, but there's just some shit. Like, this is just nuts. Obviously, I hate NFTs. I've talked about it on the show before. That's a personal opinion. That's not just the show's opinion. That's my personal opinion. It doesn't make sense to have the digital original, because the second you said digital, it doesn't matter whether it's the original or not. So digital is the only thing that you can copy verbatim. It'll be identical to every other version, provided it passes the checksum. I've been working in computers. Jim works in computers. We've been doing this for most of our careers. And I kind of look at this and I laugh and I go, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Now, I also understand now, as I've been reading more and more about it, that there's a connection between NFTs and the metaverse. It's this whole idea that like you'll be able to go into these virtual spaces. And if you own the NFT, you'll be able to use the NFT item that you own in that virtual space. But it's like, wait a minute. I would rather spend cash on shit that I actually have rather than shit that's virtual. And I've made it very clear to my wife and others that I will not be taking part in the metaverse. Unless it's a business specific thing, I won't be buying a virtual reality helmet and going to visit our viewers. It's just not going to happen, folks. I'm sorry, but I have to draw a line in the sand somewhere. This is the most ridiculous bullshit I've ever heard in my life, is that we no longer need to interact in person because we can just do it on the metaverse.
Well, yeah. So for those who don't know why Fender or Gibson, which I think also filed for NFT.
I'm sure. If Gibson did it,
yeah.
if Fender did it, Gibson did it. If Gibson did it, Fender did it, for sure.
I'm sure of it. But here's the reasoning. And I think it makes sense, although it doesn't make sense. So as David had said, we're going into this virtual world, right? We go to a virtual world, and as dumb as this sounds, because literally this sounds so stupid to me, I don't even you're going to be buying like virtual soup and virtual
yeah, like virtual shit, like things you can't actually use,
right? And you'll buy a virtual guitar.
Nope.
To play virtual.
You will. I won't.
No, not me. I mean the person.
Yeah,
the
that's my point. That's my point.
The audience.
No, I need a guitar I can actually play. Sorry, that's bullshit.
Why would you pay money for a virtual guitar that you play virtually? I don't get it.
A lot of money. A lot of money. Not money, but a lot of money.
So Gibson's and Fender is like, no, we're gonna make it so our headstocks and our stuff, our logo, everything else is protected in that universe, and you will have to pay for that in that universe. Now, as silly as that sounds to me and you, and probably most people, if people start going to the metaverse and they live their lives in the metaverse, these things that some of them, listen, as stupid as it sounds, people collect the dumbest shit, right? And collecting virtually. You have played MMOs. I have played MMOs.
Yeah, I mean, I understand
people that collect crap.
People buy shit inside of video games now. I mean, it's like an in-game purchase. If you've heard of this, that's essentially what the metaverse. Let's call the metaverse what it really is. It's a video game. Okay,
right?
People are acting like it's going to be some business tool, and I'm like, well, I see business applications of being able to have virtual meetings in a virtual reality space. I don't see the application of like going to the club virtually. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, what? Yeah, you going to date somebody virtually? It's just nonsense.
And that leads to a whole other can of worms.
It's almost a political conversation at that point.
Right. It's a sociological implications of that alone are just way more than I really want to deal with. And at 58 years old on Tuesday, before the episode comes out. So by the time you guys see this episode, I'll be 58.
Happy birthday!
I don't give a flying rat. Thank you. I don't give a flying rat's ass about the virtual universe. That said, my grandchildren might. right? Whatever
They
grandchildren
might
may or may not
have to. They might have no choice.
Right. And because of that, I care about the implications that we leave towards us. I don't care if Fender and Gibson make $5 or whatever. Here's the thing. So I play Final Fantasy. And in Final Fantasy, I see people walk around. They have, of course, people who played World of Warcraft, whatever. You drive around on a tank. That tank costs you $25, $30 in a thing. As silly as that sounds, I don't have one of those. I'm just saying that I see people riding around in $30
virtual items. In other words,
right.
things that they can't actually physically have in the real world.
Wearing virtual clothing, having virtual earrings. How big are your earrings? How big is your screen? You could see your earrings. You could never feel them. You could never touch them. Now I understand some of the disconnect there is with human beings and the you know, again, that social side.
Let me put this out there, and I think this is gonna kind of like temper this argument. And well, I want you to understand, like, there's some other implications here that I think we haven't covered. So if this is really about metaverse, right? If that's what because I really don't believe NFTs are about metaverse. I think NFTs are about market speculation and people thinking that they have intrinsic value, which they don't. And I think people are, so like,
and we're seeing that.
The metaverse implication and the question I have about that is, so like, let's say you buy the Fender Stratocaster, right? We'll use it hypothetically, because then they would never sell the Stratocaster as an NFT because they want to produce many of them. But let's say you buy the NFT of some iconic Fender thing, right? And then you distribute said NFT products and you sell them for a profit. Not the NFT, but copies of the NFT.
Right.
In the virtual market space, which I hope to God that is not what an NFT is actually intended to be eventually, because then Gibson and Fender just sold away their intellectual property. Could you imagine that if Gibson basically didn't realize that they were selling the NFT license? Do you know what I mean? Like, you just sold them the license to the Les Paul. Like,
right.
And now they're basically just running around every burst Les Paul that comes out of the guy that bought the burst NFT. He gets the money. You don't get shit. You're gonna have to sue him in virtual court to get the money from him. Cause like that's the fear I have with companies jumping into this before metaverse is actually a thing. I mean, it is a thing. There are private metaverses already. These private virtual worlds where you can put on a VR helmet and go and interact with them. And people have done crazy things like tried to exist in them for, long periods of time and stuff. So,
well, there's a guy that married his virtual. So
yeah. So that aside, right? And you could probably make the argument that MMOs are metaverses unto themselves. But that all aside, right? Just the NFT side of things and how shady this whole proposition is this is like the NFT is hand in hand with cryptocurrency, right? And they're traded on the same markets by the same people. And the reason why I think this is all nuts is you don't hear about anybody buying stuff from Gibson with fucking Bitcoin. You don't hear about people buying shit from Fender in Bitcoin. So why would they be fucking issuing NFTs? I mean, it's like, here, this is a legal way for us to get involved in like shady shit. Which, after the Ukraine thing now, I'm concerned that things like Bitcoin are going to be the target of governments worldwide because they're watching Russia try to move money. Using a currency that's independent is basically said, we're not getting in the middle of this. This is the asinine nature of this. So now you've got companies like Fender and Gibson that are basically jumping into straw markets. They have that much money, by the way. Fender has that much money that they're actually doing this. Like, this is kind of bonkers to me. Because everybody else in the industry struggles, right? They can't even hire a worker to build enough units to get something out for a month. But Fender goes and makes NFTs. It's just, this just reeks of like screwed up. And I know part of that is probably my own, like, what the hell is going on with this sort of reaction to the word NFT anyway. But it's like, somebody's got to start asking these questions. I had somebody the other day. I was in my wife's Discord, and she was doing an offline stream in her Discord and playing video game. And we had some people that come to the stream, like actually hang out in Discord. And so I was talking to a guy, I won't say his name, who is he's a second year guitar player, started during the pandemic. Totally admitted, like, I started during the pandemic because I didn't have anything else to do and I had some money laying around. So he told me he bought 3 Harley Bentons. So this is the modern beginner, okay? He bought 3 Harley Bentons. And it was like, really like these guitars, okay, fair enough. You don't have a lot of experience with other things. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. But he's got 3 Harley Bentons, and he's having this, conversation about guitar with me online virtually. And like, I'm sort of thinking about the fact that, this is a metaverse already. Like we're having this conversation, and they actually, this podcast in itself is also this, but
it's a metaverse.
We're not selling NFTs. That's not going to happen here. We are a legit operation. There's no reason for us to get into something that is potentially going to cost our listeners money and ultimately impact us negatively, because people are going to be pissed off and upset and running around and using whatever clout they gather while they're trading NFTs to throw us under the bus or file lawsuits against us for, participating in what could potentially at some point be an illegal foreign market. These are interesting implications, right? And I would hesitate to guess that anyone in our community is going to be buying NFTs from Fender or Gibson right now. That's just, it's kind of nonsensical. You got people buying Harley Bentons, and you think they're going to buy a Fender NFT? Part of the reason why I went down that tangent, though, was he was talking about Harley Benton and the headstocks and all these different things and the name, and like, why do people pay $400 for a Squire, $500 for a Squire? And I told him, I was like, because they're paying for the name. They're paying for the name in a lot of cases. It's not just, and I'm saying that, yeah. I'm not trying to be supportive of Harley Benton. You guys know how I feel about Harley Benton, but I'm saying that, like, there is a premium. I have a Seagull, and if I'd bought a Martin, I would have spent $400 more, and it probably still wouldn't have gotten a solid wood guitar. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there is a price gap for those brands. And so it's like, they're selling their logo now more by doing this NFT thing. They're selling their logo now more than they're actually selling their product, which is kind of messed up. It's part of the reason why I have a problem with them being a lifestyle brand. This is worse than being a lifestyle brand, in my opinion, by the way. And brands that are doing this are just kind of like, they got me kind of wondering, like, wow, so you guys are willing to basically take like weird money that's quasi-legal from foreign countries and everything else, because it's untraceable essentially. So by the way, I think most of the Bitcoin or the NFT markets I've seen are not in USDs. You buy NFTs with Bitcoin, or you buy them with a wallet of some sort with other cryptocurrency, which I think is kind of wild. It's like, they don't sell guitars for Bitcoin, but man, they'll sure sell digital property. So
I'm not a fan of the whole digital monetary value thing. I understand that I understand economics well enough to know that yes, every currency is based on its intrinsic value worldwide. But I get the feeling that we're going to see. I'm not going to say we're going to see the end of cryptocurrency.
No, I think we're going to
no more than we saw the end of pet rocks. I'm just saying that.
Or
NFTs
NFTs for that matter. I think actually the technology that drives it, because I work for a legal association, and I will say that we are partnered with the Global Blockchain Consortium. If you don't know what that is, basically the Global Legal Blockchain Consortium is a group of individuals that created a blockchain so that you can attach legal documentation to it and reference contracts and stuff like that on the blockchain. So it's an immutable ledger that this was done and signed at this time, right? Which is actually a really valuable legal tool. And those are the kinds of things where an immutable ledger, like a blockchain for Bitcoin, would be fantastic and useful. And there are other situations too, like we talk about international currency and like this idea that, you know, Russia could potentially use Bitcoin to fund themselves. And there are situations where having a currency like that's great, but I think part of the problem is that governments in general in other countries have refused to do anything with it. Right? They're not cracking down yet. They've looked at it like we tax it here, but that's not the same thing as like regulating it. And I think that's largely going to come, and I think at the same time there's going to be implications for NFTs when that happens. So that's why I'm like very, very skeptical about this. We're putting together an EP right now, me and my co-writer, Tony Lapierre, and we are not in neither of us have even thought about selling an NFT of our project. That's just not going to happen. That is not a thing that will happen. Because it's not a real thing. Like, it's not tangible, you know. it's just wild. I don't want to retread this too much. So
that's good.
We had a bunch of other stuff we wanted to talk about too. There was a bunch of other news items.
Right. Let's keep going.
Yeah, and then we can do a gig report at the end.
Do we want to talk about the one I sent you on Messenger there a minute ago?
Yeah, let's do, definitely. So I have it's not that silver pedal right there, but it would look like it is. Up here on the wall, there is a Chase Bliss Warped vinyl. Now, Chase Bliss put out an email this week to all its customers, and I think it ended up in the hands of a lot of people. Basically, them saying that we are no longer selling, pedals to dealers, and they're going to sell direct. Now, before we go anywhere, I want to preface this by saying Chase Bliss is not made overseas and sold here in the States. So this has nothing to do with any of the other topics we've discussed tonight in that regard. Like, Chase Bliss is not, I mean, they source parts from overseas, but like, if they can't get parts, they're not building pedals. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty obvious. But this is not a supply chain issue that's driving this. No. Now, Jim, do you want to kind of give an overview of like why you think this is happening? And
yeah,
because I don't think they really clearly explained why it's happening. Or
so what it looks like is Chase Bliss wants to continue to sell their product at or approximately around the current price. They also want to be able to provide a high level of customer service. Because, let's face it, most of their retailers are not trained to handle their product, because most Chase Bliss products are not your average pedals of any kind, whether it be overdrive, reverb, whatever.
They're usually better than a rack unit.
Right. They're and not cheap.
No.
And in an effort to keep jobs and to keep people in place, because as David pointed out, they're in the United States, and to maintain pricing rather than having huge price increases, and to maintain a high level of customer service, they're going to cut out the middleman and sell direct, because they wind up handling the bulk of customer service, and they do the bulk of the work, and they are not getting, as far as they're concerned, a return on investment by having their products being distributed and sold by large distributors. For example, Guitar Center, Sweetwater, whatever. And it's not because of a lack of trying. I just think there's a lack of understanding. A Chase Bliss pedal, you have one. Mm-hmm. They're not easy to get.
They're not easy to use.
And what
either.
I mean by that is they're not easy to use. They're not easy to understand. And it doesn't mean that you can, but most people want to know, what's my Jimi Hendrix 1972 or 1972? Yeah, that doesn't exist.
This is what's not the pedal for you. Right. Like just based on where this conversation's going. You're getting very
what
specific.
What is my 1969 Jimi Hendrix setting for this pedal? There isn't one. And you're not going to find your 1999 Radiohead setting either. So the fact is that these pedals are for people who are willing to put the time and the effort into their tone, and their time and effort into learning how the pedal works. And we talked about that with Earthquaker too. It's and what I mean by that is Earthquaker doesn't exactly name their pedals.
Yeah, you never know what the hell they are.
Yeah, much less
to read the description.
So, but the point is that Chase Bliss has so much power and so much control. It's
really
box.
Just the control. Yeah, I mean, for the most part. Let me talk about my experience with Chase Bliss. So, I have a Warp Vinyl Mark II. I owned the Brothers for a while.
Yep.
And I want to say I own something else, but it's not. I'm looking at the list of pedals here, and none of these are springing to mind. So if you haven't looked at their compact pedals, they're 2-foot switches in a single enclosure, left and right side jacks, so no top-down jacks, because the top is a panel of dip switches. And I believe it's like 8 of them, might be 12, that do different things depending on what the pedal is. But basically, it's a new way to interact with the digital switching inside the pedal that then modulates the circuit in some way or modifies the circuit in some way to do things that other pedals simply can't do. The Warp Vinyl is a chorus, but it can almost get into Univibe territory, and it sounds like the old Leslie chorus that was built into the Hammond organ, the Hammond cabinets. Okay, Leslie, yeah, yes, the chorus and the Leslie for the Hammond organs. That was so incoherent, but I'm sure somebody understood what I was saying. So then they started putting out some different format pedals, because most of their pedals are in that format. They did the Preamp Mark II. Well, they did the Preamp Mark I first, obviously. And then they did the CXM 1978 Vintage Studio Verb. And the claim to fame of those is they have rotary switches and they're MIDI capable. So by rotary, not rotary switches, they're rotary, they're robotic faders. Robotic faders. So when you hit them with a patch change, all the faders go to where you set them, which is kind of a gimmick. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Everybody thinks that this is like the coolest fucking thing they've ever seen when they see it happen the first time, especially if there's a studio and you see like 48 faders, do a dance. Was it when the mixer starts up to let you know they're all working? Yeah, there's actually a reason for that, guys. When your console does that when you start it up, it's because it's trying to tell you, hey, I'm alive and everything works. But in this particular instance, you're putting this on a pedal board. You're traveling around with this damn thing. Those things are notoriously bad for breaking down when they're dirty. So I don't know what faders he's using. Like, they got to be fancy as shit. That's all I can say. Because if that's a functional thing that works on your pedal board, they better be really fancy. I know that there's also the ability to disable the faders so that they don't do the flying fader thing when you switch presets on those format pedals. But this is why I wanted to talk about both these formats. So the mini format, what I will call it, the dual pedal thing, that format typically retails, depending on the pedal's function, from $350 to $450. And I think they now have a $500 one too. The Preamp Mark II is, I believe, $800, and that has not changed price since it came out. It's $750. I believe that has not changed price since it came out. The Studio Verb is $900. And so here's why I think Chase Bliss is doing this. The prices that you were paying when you go to a dealer were 30% markup. Chase Bliss was getting their ass kicked financially. These pedals are expensive. You want to buy something with motorized faders, you're going to pay through the fucking nose. And those two pedals have been like out of stock since they came out. They're just almost impossible to get. So they're extremely popular with a certain group of people. And the people are willing to pay $800, $900 for them. And that's what this boils down to. In order for them to stay profitable, they probably had to bring it all in-house because they couldn't afford a 30% markup. They couldn't afford to discount pedals to get them into dealers' hands. Now, I've taken my Chase Bliss pedal and I've opened it. No batteries in these guys, by the way. No way in hell. It is wall-to-wall circuit board. It's like 3 layers. It is wild in a little Hammond enclosure. I've never seen anything so tightly packed in my life. I have no idea how they build these things. I'm convinced that they have elves that do it. And like they just give them milk and cookies and then that shit gets done. They come in the morning and there's like 10 pedals that are finished. So they actually bake during the day. That's what they really do. I don't know. Personally, I think there's a cult audience for this company. I think the cult audience is loyal, and I think they will eat this up. The problem is Chase Bliss is basically admitting that they're making a killing on their lower end stuff now, because even though they retail for between $350 and $500, they don't have to pay that markup anymore, and they were fine before. It's the expensive pedals that I think that are driving this conversation, because they are probably the most popular things they're producing. And of course they had two big like giant successes last year. They did the Fuzz Factory, the Bliss Factory, which is like basically Chase Bliss's Fuzz Factory. So if you didn't know, Joe Corti of Chase Bliss used to work for ZVEX. He used to work for Zachary Vex. So they have a good relationship. He asked me, he said, can we put the Fuzz Factory? I think it was supposed to be a charity pedal original, and it ended up becoming like a big seller. And they did a couple runs of them. So their charity peddler was for the pedal movie. But right now, I mean, like they've got more discontinued pedals than they have in production, which is pretty wild.
They've only got like 9 pedals in production.
They don't offer a delay right now, which is pretty wild. Not a traditional delay. They have like, they have the Habit and they have the Mood, which are both like plays on delays. I guess the Therme is probably also considered a delay. I don't know. I like Chase Bliss when they were making pedals that were useful for the average guitarist. So like when they came out with the Brothers, which by the way, people hated the fucking Brothers. I liked mine, not enough to keep it. I couldn't justify keeping it financially. It just didn't make sense. I thought it had a couple of good sounds in it, but for what I paid for it, it just didn't make sense. But as I look through here, like they don't do their tremolo anymore. They don't do either of their analog delays, which were freaking great. The Bliss Factory is now considered to be discontinued, which probably means that their license ran out. The Condor analog EQ filter is no longer being done, which a lot of people really like that too. And that was like because it was basically a parametric EQ. The Brothers is gone for a while. That's been gone since the preamp came out. The Ayahuasca, I believe, was also a licensed deal. The Wombtone Mark II and Mark I, those were phasers. They don't know the phaser. They do the generation loss is gone, but I think that was a limited run pedal anyway. The Warp Vinyl, their chorus, they don't do a chorus right now, and they don't do a flanger either. I mean, those are the 4 pedal. Like, bring back your modulation pedals. If you want to do this and like make a go of it, like I'd buy your stuff if you brought back your modulation pedals and you priced them appropriately. Because they're not priced appropriately right now. This is not a market where I think anybody can justify buying and I'm going to say this out loud, and I don't want anybody to shoot the messenger, but the Dark World sucks. I've heard it from multiple people at this point. It's a shitty reverb. It's a shitty reverb. I'm going to say it. It's a shitty reverb. You know how much Dark World costs? $350. $350 shitty reverb. I'd rather take that $350 and throw it at, UAD and get a good reverb, or any number of other companies that provide a good reverb for $350 rather than the Dark World. And I'm not shooting shots at Joel. I actually like Joel. I've had good interactions with him, but I just think that like he's kind of gone down this path of, I'm going to make the weird wacky stuff. And
right.
that's working for him, but it doesn't work for me. So I'm not interested.
Right. Yeah, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. I think that, right, it's not going to be the bag of some people, and they're not going to go down that hole.
Well, don't make no mistake, like the Dark World, I said it's a shitty reverb. What I mean is, it's a lo-fi reverb. If you're into that, I mean, by all means, but I'm not spending $350 on it.
I think Chase Bliss is, as you said, they have a rabid.
They have a cult following. Already. There are people that literally buy every single Chase Bliss pedal as it comes out. I think the thing that a lot of other companies need, they don't need. And that is, they don't have a lot of YouTubers that do videos about their stuff. No, they sponsor a podcast. That's how they get around that.
Yep. And they don't really, get like, hey, Chase Bliss is at Sweetwater. I didn't even know Chase Bliss was. I thought Chase Bliss was already. I gotta be honest with you. I was surprised.
You didn't know they had dealers?
That this wasn't already a thing. So
yeah, CME
when they
was
said,
a
hey,
dealer.
We're going online only, direct sales only. I'm like, wow.
That's good.
I thought they were already.
I have
there.
more reason to go to Jam Pedals then. Because I believe I believe Jam Pedal is their biggest competitor, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Cult following, interesting, unique pedals, with a kind of an off kilter vibe to them. I think there's probably a lot of overlap.
But is there enough cult following to keep them in business long term? I don't know.
They have. So I'm in their Facebook group because I bought pedals from them before. They have a private Facebook group that you get invited to, or at least you did.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of people in there. And like I said, there's a lot of people in there that literally have every Chase Bliss pedal, which is wild. They're the people that like them, they're rabid fans. And in some cases, it's like they're plugging tape players into them. I mean, they're not even plugging guitars into them. They're using them for manipulation. So
right. And I can see that. That I can see.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have... Actually, I wish more pedals would go the direct route, but they would pass the savings on to us rather than trying to gouge us. Because that was my argument. Like, so they got these pedals that are kind of weird and wacky. Like so the Warp Vinyl is probably the most normal pedal they do right now, which is a pretty intimidating chorus. The hi-fi. It's got a lot of features. You can literally set this thing up and use it as a tremolo if you want.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to harass somebody. My cat is in the cat food can because somebody didn't throw it away. My wife shows up. It's like the wild wife appears.
You walked right in there. She was on top of it.
Yeah, it's not her fault. I can tell you whose fault it is. It's my youngest's. They are incapable of throwing things away, so they physically can't do it, I guess. Because that's the only explanation I could come up with. So the Warp Vinyl Hi-Fi is it is their most conventional pedal, but at the same time is still wildly intimidating. This pedal is now $350. It's been $350 for a long time. So you're telling me the parts cost went up enough that they went up 30%? Because, I mean, maybe they did, but like, I have a hard time believing they went up 30%. Maybe 15%. I almost feel like 325 would be an appropriate price now at this point, or 300 flat if I'm buying from you directly. But you know, I understand a lot of these companies and the way they operate is like, we want to make sure our people make a living wage, and
Right.
I understand that. But I think some people also, I don't know. I don't want to get into that conversation. I think it's a much deeper issue. But like, that's part of what's driven Kiesel's prices through the roof. And I feel like that conversation is more about, how about you stop lining your own pockets and start making sure that your employees are paid well. And I know Joel wouldn't do that, because Joel is a good dude, like having had conversations with him and interactions with him in the past. But in the case of Jeff Kiesel, I mean, that guy, he's got a $200,000, you know, toy that he drives through the desert, like, and he's complaining that the customers need to pay more so his people can get paid. Whoa, wait, what? You know, come on. How about you live like your employees? Like, that's the kind of horse shit that just drives me absolutely insane. So, you know, if Joel's buying a Ferrari and he wants his employees to buy a Ferrari, like, that I get. Do you know what I'm saying? But like, that's not what's going on here. this Joel's living like everybody else, and Joel's trying to make sure everybody gets paid so they can, you know, put food on the table. So I get that. Yeah, I know we've spoken about this myth on the show before too. The myth that because you build pedals or you sell guitars, that you're infinitely rich because you build your own guitars and like sell them to people. That is like complete nonsense. And some of the people who in the industry people think have got like a ton of money end up being like the poorest ones, which is absolutely hysterical. And then you got other people out there who have money and have a company and they don't spend anything on their company. Like, that's the other side of it. But the one that comes up in conversation, of course, is Josh Scott. Now, Josh Scott is actually pretty responsible with his money. He does have a lot of cash put away now because his company has been very, very successful. And I'm sure he's living very well. But there was a time period when people thought he was filthy rich, and he was like renting an apartment to put his business in because he had no space. He couldn't afford to rent like commercial space. That wasn't a thing. He was hiring his buddies because he literally couldn't hire anyone else. No one else would work for free. Like, that's, you know, that's the kind of nonsense that people don't understand, is that even places like Earthquaker, who have managed to eke out, you know, a living for him and his wife who build pedals. It's like, people have instantly think that these companies are, you know, ultra rich, and it's just not the case. By the way, you compared Earthquaker and Chase Bliss. The only real similarity between Earthquaker and Chase Bliss is that the pedals themselves, the names and what they do, are really cryptic.
Right. That's all I was getting.
Yeah,
that's the only comparison I was making.
The function,
I wasn't throwing anything else up.
The function in Chase Bliss is also cryptic. Like, that's the difference. Like, even if you know what the pedal is supposed to do, the function in Chase Bliss is still cryptic. Like, you have to play with it, figure it out. And then once you figure it out, it's actually really cool. But
I've noticed in Earthquaker, like I'll look at an Earthquaker pedal and I'll go, what the hell does that knob do? I mean, it's usually logical. I mean, if it's a dirt pedal, you're going to have tone and you're going to have drive and you're going to have, you know,
let me ask you a question.
EQ, but
let's do this. This is part of our segment. I'm going to find Earthquaker, and I'm going to ask you pedal names and then get your opinion on what they are.
Oh boy.
This sounds like a fun segment.
This sounds like a game.
Yeah. This is going to be awesome.
A drinking game. All right, everybody, get your shots ready.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Get a whole bottle, because I don't know shit. Go. I'm not going to cheat, so.
How about the Dispatch Master?
The Dispatch Master. Echo.
You are correct. It's a delay and reverb pedal.
Wow, I got one right.
The Astral Destiny.
Astral Destiny. Ambient noise. I don't know.
No, it's a reverb pedal.
I was gonna say reverb. I thought the other one was reverb, but they have
Here you go. The data corruptor.
That I know. The data corruptor is like a weird. It breaks up your signal and makes these weird sounds come out.
Do you know what's funny is they characterize it as a harmony pedal. They consider it a harmonizing fuzz effects pedal for electric guitar.
I suppose that's what those outputs are.
I know what that thing sounds like.
Random,
that's asinine.
Yeah, they're just random noises it makes.
The
only problem I have with that pedal before you go further is you can't control what it does.
No.
It's like the Miku.
No, it's just bad
like
shit.
Pedal. It's going to say whatever it wants when you play that thing.
That's the problem I have with the Fuzz Factory. No matter how you set the knobs, it'll never sound the same way twice.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous.
You could literally like glue the knobs in place and it'd still sound different the next time you turn it on. Oh, this is good. The Warden.
The Warden. Reverb. No, I mean, reverb.
No, it's an optical compressor.
Oh, come on.
I also would have accepted gate.
Jail is echoey. And okay, so nope.
I would have thought gate. So I'm like, hey.
Oh, okay. That one makes sense. The gate part makes sense.
Now you probably know this one because this is a popular pedal from them, but the Acapulco Gold.
Acapulco Gold. That's got to be a reverb pedal.
No, it's a distortion.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I hope you guys are drunk by now.
Yeah,
I told you, I wasn't gonna get a lot of these right.
I'm not gonna go through a ton of them. I'm just looking for fun ones at this point.
And I didn't know what the disruptor, whatever that one was.
How about the organizer?
The organizer sounds like it's gonna be, what does that sound? A tremolo.
No, it's a polyphonic organ emulator.
Dude, I am so fucked when it comes to this. I don't know. Let's do one more.
I'm looking for the best.
Find a good one.
How about the Rainbow Machine?
Oh, come on. Rainbow. It's a rainbow, so it sounds like Richie Blackmore. It's a Richie Blackmore.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No, it's a pitch shifting modulation pedal. It's actually a polyphonic pitch shifting delay.
I wouldn't have got that right.
Yeah, it's a weird fucking pedal.
I get it. When you tell me what it is, then I get it. It makes sense.
It sounds like rainbows.
It's a rainbow, right? A rainbow of sounds. But I didn't get it.
So my point is, yeah, like companies like this, there's got to be a lot of overlap between these companies and the kinds of weird stuff. Like I could see somebody putting a Rainbow Machine on the board with a warped vinyl.
Right.
Sounds reasonable. That seems like something that could happen. So I can see the comparison. I just think it's interesting that there are so many companies now that are just like marketed towards, or like building pedals towards just being weird as hell, and doing just totally bonkers stuff. And Jam does that too. I mean, hell, they have a delay with a llama on it.
Right.
Which oddly enough, Jam stuff actually is way more conventional and function, you would think. But it's like slick layout, and very few knobs, and it nails the sound of what it's trying to do. I can't think of any other companies that are quite as strange as those two.
No.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to share, or do we go into gig report? Or
yeah, I'm ready for gig report.
All right, go for it.
All right, so I had a gig. It was really fun.
I hope.
Matter of fact, yeah, it was a lot of fun. But I want to share more audience reaction than look at me, I was a great guitar player that night or whatever. So, because I was just doing my job. I mean, I go in and I play the guitar and I'm having fun. Now, I used this guitar. It was the first time. I didn't have it 3 days, I don't think. And this thing has got to be 9.5 pounds. Which is pretty heavy.
It's a brick.
It was a rock, right? and it was swinging around my neck and doing its thing, and I was having a blast. But believe me, my feet felt it the next day. I thought that I had run over a box of nails with bare feet the next day. But okay, so during the show, during the gig, I'm up there and I am just going to town, right? Just going to town. And so we got to the end of the show. Well, during the show, we're a 2 guitar player band. I mean, I'm not going to count the lead singer because once in a while he puts an acoustic on and does a little strumming, but it's like Elvis. He could be unplugged and nobody would know the difference, right? And no offense to Tim, he's our,
I'm sure he would agree.
Company.
He's doing it for effect.
Right. But he does it for effect, and he does it for himself more than anything. But anyway, so we're up there, and I'm, we're playing away. And I go to my thing. And this is the funny part. This is the fun part. And probably the part that made me laugh the most, and even the other guitar. So I'm the person that's very animated. I do all the backup vocals. I do some of the lead vocals, and I also provide, the singing or the guitar playing, obviously. A lot of rhythms, because the other guy, he'll admit, he's like, I don't want to have to learn all the chords. You know the chords. That's you. I hear what you do and I play over it, which is cool. That's an interplay of 2 guitar players, and certainly a valid interplay of what you would do when you're playing in a 2 guitar band. Is no 2 are trying to do the same thing. As a matter of fact, when he does play chords, and when we both play chords, and we've talked about this before, he goes for voicings that I'm not doing. So I'll say, what are you using for a voicing there? I show him, he goes to another one. Which is tough for a song like Interstate Love Song. Anybody that's played an Interstate Love Song, if you do the real chords to the song, there's a lot of diminished and demolished chords in there. And it's hard to find another place to play the diminished chord like that. You know what I mean? And so sometimes he'll play a piece of one, sometimes he'll play the whole thing. But we're both playing, sensibly. Anyway, the funny part is the audience reaction. So they're watching me and I am just flying all over the place. My hands are just flailing. If anybody checks out my YouTube page, my personal YouTube page, or my Facebook page, I post everything to the world. So I just don't care.
Yeah,
but you can see
his
me
life
up
is there for you to see.
Yeah, hamming it up. I don't care. And so I'm hamming it up in front of everybody. I'm just having a good time. And we're at the last song. The last song we do is Freebird that night. Because a guy came in and said, here's the funny part. He goes, you guys, I heard you cross the road. We came from that club, came over here, see you guys. He's literally talking like this. And I heard you guys play some Scattered earlier. Could you play me some Scattered? I'll tip you. And he takes out a $5 bill. A $5.
Shit, I've got bigger tips than that.
He gives Tim a $5 bill, our lead singer. He gives him $5.
Tim's like, well, hell, that'll buy me half a beer.
Tim goes, woo. Well, we'll have to play Freebird for you. And I said, did you hear that, folks? He just tipped us $5 to play Freebird. You give me 10 and we won't play it. I'll take $10 not to play it. Well, obviously it went the place erupted laughter. And then Tim goes, here, Jim, you take the whole $5. I gave it to the bartender.
Meanwhile, the guy that you gave you the $5 is like, now they're making a fool of me.
Nope, because we played it. And so we're going to the part, where it goes to double time during the solo. Well, during the double time in the solo, all the girls left at the end of the night, and this guy are in front of me. Somebody's got a picture of this somewhere because I saw pictures of them. They're in front of me going, and the guy gets on his knees and he's got a lighter and he's holding it like this. He's got this guy's face. And I'm just going, da-da, da-da.
Sir, I would lean over my guitar and go, sir, this is a bar.
And they're thinking I'm the rock star.
Yeah.
I look over.
Well, yeah, he's going buck wild over there, and you're like, what the hell?
Now, to add insult to injury, he had just had He had his appendix taken out 2 days before.
Right.
So he's standing up there. The hardest painkiller he's on is like Tylenol.
Yeah.
And not even the good Tylenol, not the Tylenol with codeine. I'm talking about regular old Tylenol. So he's on Tylenol. He's got 2 fresh scars because they did it laparoscopically. And I'm over there ripping it up on the rhythm, and everybody thought I was playing the song.
Yeah.
So he turned over to me, he nodded me in, and then we just started ripping the solo together. And it's just so fun because everybody was like, oh my God, you're so good. And I'm like, all the real work's been done.
You know what's funny though is like, that's totally.
And I love because he's so humble about it. He really is. And he didn't go, look, you a-holes, I'm the one doing the work. He laughed it off too. He thought it was hilarious. So
that song is such a crowd pleaser, and people think it's so freaking hard to play. And it's like, guys, it's like one of the first songs you can learn. I mean,
right.
That's why I just kind of laugh, because I'm like, there's some songs that I've ended up playing at Open Jam that are kind of like that too, where it's like, these are the easiest songs you could possibly have me playing, and I can do really well on them and make them sound really good because they're fucking easy.
Right.
But there are other songs that should be dirt simple that people like call as tunes, and you're like, oh great, not that one again, because like everybody train wrecks it. I won't say what songs because I know people from Open Jam listen to the show, and I don't want to out them because I've been on stage with several folks who listen to the show, who have called for a song or two that were going to be train wrecks. They were going, like, you knew ahead of time. You're like, oh god damn it. Actually, one, The Wait is often a train wreck.
You're talking about by the band. Right?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it's
song.
not a hard song, and if you've learned the tune, because I play it with old Stumpy, like, you should be able to get through it, no sweat. But when I play The Wait with anyone else, for whatever reason, somebody screws up something, and it's like always a train wreck.
You know what they usually screw up is that little piece at the end of each of the. Is it the verse?
Yeah, that harmony part, not the part before the vocal harmony. The chords. Dan, 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 dan. Yeah.
And they come in ahead. It's on the end, and it's like,
no.
hold on, wait.
Or they play because it's like 2 parts, and then that part they try to play it early. Yep. Like, that's another thing I've had happen. Or they don't know the chords for that section. Now, I've actually dived that song really bad one time because I was on stage with somebody who decided to play with a capo and told me it was in a different key than it was.
Whoops.
Yeah. So by the time I figured out what key it was actually in, I was like, it was already a train wreck at that point.
Yep.
So, you know,
I can believe that.
And I've been on stage with that particular individual several times and had train wrecks because they wanted to do tunes that are not simple tunes and that not everyone on stage knows, and they don't have charts. We have a guy that comes in now. He brings charts. He says, I've got chords for you. And he puts chords down in front of you.
That's cool.
I will share. I have a gig report to share.
Well, let me finish.
Yeah.
So I also auditioned vocally to play with a national act. Firefall is coming to town. Only part of the band is coming, so they're looking for people to fill in the spots. This is in response to the fact that a lot of bands didn't get to keep, because let's face it, bands like that were making their living on continuing to tour the few hit songs they had in the 70s and early 80s.
Right.
And so all they really had coming in was tour money.
Mm-hmm.
And when the tours dried up, that was all there was. So now some people are going out, some people like yourself, they're staying home for good reason. Their health isn't good or whatever. And and some people like have had strokes. I mean, they're even worse off than they were. And so there is a limited amount of work you can get done. And so what they're trying to do is do kind of like a Daryl's house, where you do a smaller venues, a little bit larger, not huge overages, but a little bit larger ticket price, but you are guaranteed like you're right there, and you get an intimate setting.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is they come in, and we've got other bands. I'm not sure I can share the names, but other acts in that time frame that are be coming through. And this whole idea is kind of like a Daryl's house.
Yeah, where you could be the fill-in guy for other acts.
Right. And I would come in and I would sing back up for other acts and so on and so forth. So I went in and I did it. I did pretty well. I hated myself, but
we're always our worst critic.
Yeah. And I was told by other people, Jim, you picked the highest song and you did it first and you were the first singer. So there's that. So, and I did. And then the second song, I did the high harmonies, which are even higher than what I was singing to do the beads on the other part. So I'm hoping I impressed them enough to at least come in and do some harmony and enjoy some of the stuff. So that but what was cool, I never auditioned like that. I never had to audition like that for something like that. So I figured it would be like other auditions where you come in and you do a little piece of it and then you walk away. I did a whole song twice. I could have done all of them. Could have done all 6 or 7 songs. And it's also, it was a very intimate thing. And I was shocked at how few people were in the cut. There's a lot of local musicians, doesn't matter where you live. There was only maybe a dozen of us. So it was cutthroat. I mean, in that respect. But everybody was respectful of everybody.
Oh, no, right. Because they all know that, like, there's only a certain amount of gigs, and, like, you don't want to throw that guy into the bus because he might actually talk you up for something else later.
That's right.
Yeah. And there's definitely a fraternity attitude towards those kind of situations.
Right.
Yeah, I hope you get a call back on that, actually. I was just thinking about it. Yeah. So I mean, is it cool if I share now?
Yeah. Now
I'm gonna share. I'm not gonna name names. I saw some bad conduct again. It was not the kind of conduct that had me riled up this time, but a friend of mine and I were sitting together at Open Jam, and he got called up, and he wanted me to go up with him, and he had said that, but I'd been up enough. I was like, no, it's good. It's fine. Just get the guy that's going up with him. I'm like, he's really good. You'll be fine. I knew one of the gentlemen that was already up there, and I knew the other guy could play. I had a horribly negative interaction with the individual before. But it's like, whatever. And now I'm told that person drinks, it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and he becomes an asshole when he drinks, basically. That's what I'm told. So, anyway, he gets up on stage, and my buddy is the one that brings charts, right? So he's actually sitting at the table scribbling charts down all night before he gets up. And he waits. He was there when he came in shortly after I got there, and he waited till end of night to perform. He's, trooper. He really wants to play. He's going to have a good time. He's looking to play with new people. He doesn't care that he had to wait. He never made a comment about it, negative comment about it. But I would have been kind of pissy. I would have been like, how come I didn't get into the rotation at the end? Because I'm a band leader? Is that why? Because I offered to lead a band? Like, that's kind of bullshit. And I'm sort of okay with that kind of thinking, but he was cool with it. That's my line of thought, not his. So he hands out charts for the first two tunes, and it's clear the one guitar player that I said is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is exceptional. Okay, and he is playing over the other guitar player, and because the other guitar player is standing back on the stage, he can't see him to call him for solos. So after the first tune, he realized he missed him. He made sure he got a solo in the second tune. Other guitar player played over him on accident. On accident, because he stopped after a few minutes, after a few seconds. Like, it was like he realized, oh shit. And then they kind of played together for a second, and then, you know, it was cool. Nobody was upset, right? No harm, no foul. Then the funniest thing happens. Song 3, final song of the night for my friend. He's handing out lead sheets to everybody. And the other guy starts playing what's the famous BB King tune that everybody wants to do? B minor, I guess it is.
Oh, shit. The one that goes.
It's a minor blues. God, I can't remember it offhand.
I know it's in B minor, and everybody does it.
I'm looking.
I'm too. Thrill is gone.
Thrill is gone. Okay, he wants to play Thrill is gone, and he starts playing.
I taught BB King, and it's the Thrill is gone.
And as they're handing out the lead sheets, he starts playing this, and then the other guitar player kind of plays the chords along with him, and of course, then the drummer counts off, and he goes, and they're all kind of like, while the band leader's talking to people. So he goes, he sits down, and he kind of goes like this. He puts his hands together, and he looks around the stage, and they're all playing Thrill is Gone, and he says, all right. And everybody keeps playing. And at this point, Dr. Jekyll comes over, and he's standing there in front of the stage, and his cord is like almost pulled out of his guitar, right? Because he's like that far away from his amp. And he's like, no, he's like this, showing the keyboard player, and the keyboard player's going, no, I just handed out lead sheets to everybody. Like, what the hell? So he kind of smiles, and he goes, shrugs, and then next thing you know, he's singing Thrill is Gone, and the band screws him out of his last song. So he comes off stage, and he's standing with me, and he says, what the fuck is that guy's problem? And I said, I don't know. I said, I've been a victim of his ass too. Like, I had a negative interaction with him. And just like, who does that? You're not the band leader. You need to work it out with everybody, not just start playing the song and get everybody to play along with you.
Right.
So anyway, you know, he wasn't all upset about it. He was just like, that's kind of shitty. Like, I got robbed out of a song, you know? Like, yeah, it is shitty. It's like, what are you going to do about it? I mean, you going to go talk to the guy? Like, he said drunk. He probably won't remember anyway. He won't know what songs he played tonight. And the stupid thing is, guy's really good. He's like really good at guitar. He could probably be playing in a number of local bands, making decent money. But to my understanding, he doesn't even play in a local band. Like, he just, you know, he does it for fun. It's a fun thing for him. I actually know what his day job is. It's musically related. But not guitar related. And it's just kind of funny because, like, I'm watching this go down, and I'm just thinking, wow, what a jerk. And so, you know, at least in the back of my mind, my learning experience from this whole situation was, don't be that guy. Don't try to usurp things, no matter how much you think it's a better idea or whatever. Be a team player, work together. Because I would rather play with the lead sheet on the floor than to just like play a minor blues. Because at least the lead sheet on the floor, like, it could be fun. Like, I've never played this tune before. Let's go. That's the way I approach those kind of situations. Whereas, you know, who wants to play Thrill is Gone again?
Right.
And I've stuck the chords on that so many times. It's so funny. Because it's like, it's not a hard tune, but it's not 12-bar blues. Let's put it that way. There's some different changes in there. But I just kind of got by that. I did bring the amp one board again, flawless. I had everything preset the way I wanted it before I got there, because I knew, like, last time I was there, I was like, man, I didn't have enough treble, I didn't have enough of this. Man, that thing just smoked. It was like, oh, it was so good. And I was on stage with a guy playing with a 68 Deluxe Reverb, the custom one, and he looks at me and he goes, "Where is your amp?" He's like, "That thing sounds really good." And I pointed at my pedal board and he goes, "I thought that was your amp." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's my amp." And he's like, "That thing sounds really good." And I'm like, "Yeah, it does." I'm sitting there kind of thinking like, "Yeah, it's louder than yours." And it's definitely warmer. And and I have more control over it. And it weighs about half the weight. My whole rig weighs half the weight of your Deluxe Reverb. So it's kind of cool. I can't say enough good things. So I actually built a board around it, which I'm still in the process of getting like some things finalized on it. I've got it's what I think I described the board before on the last podcast, but basically like it's the sun face into the King of Tone into the amp one, and then the amp and then the Univibe actually before the or after the fuzz face. And then so I'm actually putting my fuzz in front of everything. I know who you are, and if you heard me, I actually said that I'm putting the fuzz in front of everything. And I know people know that I don't like doing that, but sometimes it's just path of least resistance. And that's the path of least resistance. Fuzz in front. Actually, and if I put a wall off to the board, the wall will actually be in front. But and then fuzz, the Vibe Machine, King of Tone. I'm using the amp one, and it basically goes between clean and vintage mode, which is like a plexi, and then that goes the effects loop out into the Delay Llama XL, and then that goes into the Maris Mercury 7 reverb, and then the Mercury 7 goes out into the amp one return, and then I'm just running one cable to the cabinet and 2 power cables off the board. And it's fantastic. I mean, it's like the most convenient damn rig. I can take 4 cables, literally 4 cables, including so guitar cable, power cable, and long speaker cable, and that's it.
Yep.
4 cables, a medium pedal board, not a huge one, and a 30-pound cabinet. Because I got that cab with the greenback in it, the Neo greenback, which, by the way, I mean, that speaker is opened up. It smokes. It's so good. I would totally load a 4x12 with those and drop 20 pounds doing it. Or 30. I think it's actually almost closer to 30 pounds. Mm-hmm. So I can't say enough good things about that. Although I don't necessarily know that I want the 1960A with those, because I think they got a little. It'll be a little too chunky in the low end if you do that. So, but that said, I haven't even plugged in my C90 cab in forever. I will be this summer. I will be playing Taste of Roselle again, which is the festival I played last year. We have a much better time slot this year. We're playing Saturday at 6 p.m. on, I don't know what the date, I think it's like August 10th or something like that. And it is that is a premiere spot. And I am looking forward to it. Not being in the sun and playing a really loud ass gig in a town that's very near to me. Because we're outdoors, I'm bringing the big shit. I'm probably going to bring a cabinet and other stuff. Because last time I wasn't loud enough on stage, in my opinion. They don't need to mic me. It's fine.
Right.
I'm gonna play the Star Spangled Banner. If you know what I mean. I'm probably gonna bring the I'll probably bring the Fillmore out for that. And it'll be the Fillmore and the HX Stomp for that show. Because I can do all the crazy weird fish effects and stuff with that. You can have
Yep.
all the filters and everything. So, I've been David.
And I've been Jim.
And tonight we've been Practical Guitarists.
We have.